To start E3D, you will have an icon, for example, like this one, but that depends on the project setup. And once you start this, you will get into the login mask, and the login mask should contain all your available projects. You can scroll through those. You can hover over a project and get some information about it. This is, for example, the marine sample project, what we will use for this training. Another way to search is if you know the project code or some information, you can search for marine, and then it finds the marine sample project, for example. Also, you can select this. Here's your information. Then, depending on the setup, you might have here a list of all available users, or if it's NT authenticated project, then you will get a list of specific users what you can use to do your job. In this case, we select here electrical user. For this, you have to enter the password, but in case you have selected here NT, or the administrator has selected NT authentication, then this password is selected automatically. Enter the password. Here you will get the list of MDBs what are available for your project. Depends on the project setup and the size. This can be 1, 2, very many as here, but we come later to this part. So in this case, we use electrical forward for outfitting forward. Stamps is a functionality for configuration management, but most of the times this is not used. This is a rather specific feature, so I won't go into details about this. Ask me if you're interested in this. You have more options here. You can start also this project as read-only. Then no write access is permitted, even though you would have with this user. Restore 3D views. You will get your last saved views automatically loaded, and also if you have made changes to your layout, you can restore here the default layout. So, and in this case, we want to select the model and start the model. The option field can be found in the project tab under options. And here we have all kind of configuration elements, Explorer settings, forms, the transparency or translucency of the forms, text and image, only image for the icons, properties window, units, developer icon, then view options, selection and snaps, configuration, picking control, elements, p-points, and power compass settings. And then here discipline specific, but those are rather not important. Graphic settings can be found under the View tab, under Settings and Graphics. Here you have the options for the general colors, autocolor rules, representation, how the tube is shown, tracing center lines, holes shown or not, Insulation can be switched to translucency values, and obstruction, visibility, for example, also a bit higher. Then the levels of detail, tolerances. Remember to push the apply button. Now you can also see the view was updated with the insulation and obstruction values. These can be selected also. That's the obstruction values of the damper. And here, to be clear, which is which, the insulation can be set to a much lower value, so it appears more solid. These settings can be also changed by the administrators with color rules and default settings. And there's steelwork specific representation settings, cabling, cableway, branch obstruction, translucency. This can be also set. Then the volume of the cableway is shown, center line, and also for cable, if the cables want to be shown as center line in case no material is selected, at least it shows a line here. Here underneath we can see now also the volumes. Also these can be now selected. Cableway branch and its material. And if needed for clarity, P lines and P points can be also displayed with numbers, and their length can be selected here. Now all items can be will be shown with their P points. The primitives usually have these P points, and many other objects as well. Piping elements. Of course, these settings can be also saved. In case you're missing the adequate administration rights, you can write local rules, and those will then be applied to your personal session. To set up your own views, you can use save and restore functionality. There you find your path where you store this information, which MDB this is related to, previously saved views, and if you want to create a new view of this actual window, create here a new view, save it, and it will store the draw list, means the loaded elements on your view, plus the view angle, and it can be restored. For example, here we see now the new view. You can select the first view and restore the view. As you can see, the previously saved view is loaded. The grid and snap settings can be changed in the bottom right corner. There are options for the grid, can be switched on and off. The grid snapping, polar snapping, orthogonal snapping, snap on and off, and the settings for all those snaps is object snapping, p-line filters, and grid settings. The model is organized in hierarchies. The top hierarchy element is the model world. Then the main elements are sites, and for marine projects, blocks for the hull elements. Additional hierarchies are group worlds and other hull organizational elements, and many more. Most important for the model are the sites, and underneath the site you will find the zones. Those are the main model elements. And underneath here for equipment, you can then find the equipment and sub-hierarchies like the templates, electrical connections, and sometimes sub-equipment. And other elements, like for example steel, are also organized in site and zone, but then structural elements, frameworks, and sections, or even a lower hierarchy element like the sub-frameworks. For piping element, you will have also site and zone, then the pipes, and a branch, and the piping elements. One pipe can have several branches, and so on. The manual can be used either by selecting the Help button on the top right, and it will start in the content mode. There you will find several chapters and the structure of the model. You will find the index with significant words, or you can search for expressions. For example, equipment model. If you use the quotes, it will search for this specific expression. This might come quite helpful if you look for specific elements. The help can also be used from the context. For example, if you press the F1 button while you're selecting or hovering over a specific element, it will find the entry for this particular function. The help and manual can also be used straight from the interface. If you select or hover over a specific icon and press F1, it will load the correct entry. Same for sub-entries. The most important navigational tool in the model is the Model Explorer. It shows all elements for the model in hierarchical order and in the hierarchy as the databases are added to the MDB. You can navigate through the model and their hierarchical elements by clicking, and with the right mouse click you get additional context menus such as add to the model, attributes, renaming, deleting, comparing, and depending on the selected element, other functionalities. Other explorers can be found in the Explorers Tools tab. For example, the System Explorer, where items are organized by their system. For IFC hierarchies, an IFC Explorer with its IFC hierarchy, fabrication data, schematic data, and catalog explorer, what also shows the model and catalog databases and entries. Another important part of the interface is the attribute window. In the attribute window, you will see additional information called so-called attributes for the selected elements. You can track which the current element, the CE, or you select which you want to see the attributes for. The attributes come in a grid. You can also change information like the description. Those also applies to all the sub-elements. And it displays, for example, references to the catalog and to other design elements. Those can be, for example, also navigated to, and then, for example, added manually, or what is also possible by selecting the nozzle, for example, right mouse click, 3D add connected. Another functionality in the interface is the so-called power wheel. Right mouse click, and then you get several context menus. These context menus depend on which discipline is selected. For example, in equipment mode, you will get the equipment context menu. Piping was shown before. In general, right mouse click, you get some aid functionalities. And for example, for cable trays, you will get the tray context. The interface also has a functionality called Power Compass. The Power Compass can be found on the bottom. As default, the position can be moved. It also shows the orientation of the view. The different view planes can be used to choose the view, and also ISO views are available. It also has the possibility to change the coordinate system or the global coordinate system, and has a memory function to go back and forward between the views. The graphical view is mainly consists of the so-called draw list, which can be also just be taken in the background. The draw list can be filled by selecting elements with right mouse click and use the add functionality. Then they are added to the draw list, and therefore they can be seen. They can be removed from the draw list by selecting with the remove button, or remove all, or for example selected. In this case, it's also add CE button. In this case, the zone. If now I make a selection, it removes the selection. This can be also, the graphical selection will be also seen here. This can consist also of several elements which can be selected. In this case, these two equipments. Important when working with bigger models is the clipping functionality. Can be found in the View tab and all its functions here. For example, you create a clip box by either selected elements or the current elements. In this case, it is the selected zone. So we use this. It will create a box what fits all these elements. Then you can modify this box by double clicking, and you get these grips in order to extend the volume or rotate it. In this case, we're just extending it. One helpful functionality is the add within functionality that can be used as partially in, means all elements what passes these box, but not totally in. Wholly, only elements what are completely inside this box. And there's an advanced tab where you can select specific elements to be added. This is a very selective way. In this case now, we create the clip box in that size, and we will add everything within. You can unselect the modify, and it loads everything what is in, at least partially in this case, within this box. Another possibility to access the model, navigate, query information, or change information in the database and in the model is the so-called command line. Can be found under Tools tab, Display Commands. The command line works with PML command. For example, to query attributes on an element, you can type in q at, and it will display the attributes of that actual current element. Other ways in the command line to navigate is, for example, by and, or entering numbers for the hierarchies. For example, 2 is the second element in the hierarchy. It is also possible to enter the name of an element, but important is to write it with a slash in front of it in order to make it understand that you want to navigate to this element. For further information for the command line and its commands, it's good to check the manual. With F1, while being on the command line, you will get your information. In order to keep the interface organized, it is structured in disciplines. You have the general equipment discipline, what adds an equipment tab. Piping discipline adds a piping tab. For the HVAC discipline, an HVAC tab, and so on. For example, for structures, it adds additional tabs for sections, plates, walls and floors, stairs and ladders, and so on. There's also other tabs for support, mining, terrain, and design templates. To create a new equipment, navigate to your zone where you want to create the equipment in. Select create equipment. Name it. With these positioning functionalities, you can choose how to position. Now you can basically press create. Now you need to create some primitives. For example, a box. Place it anywhere. Use the drag functionalities to create the box. To create a new equipment from the catalog or standard equipment, select create equipment, standard. You get your mask. You have several tables depending on your catalogs, and each table may have several types to pre-select. For example, electrical starters and such. Select, check your preview, name it. With apply and your positioning control, you can place your equipment. A quick way to place equipment what exists in your model already is to copy paste. To do so, you select an equipment, you select copy, paste the hierarchy you want to paste it to, create this equipment, you select it, You press M and enter. Now you can specify the base point and you move it relative to your base point. Another helpful tool to find elements in the model is the search tool. You can find it in the Home tab under Search. For example, to find all equipment, you enter the type equi and you press Search. Now it found all equipment for the current element, what was this site. You can also select the whole world, then it will change and you can update your search. Once you made your search, you can also use the grid, the search results, to filter or organize your data. You can filter here by name, and it will reduce the amount of data. You can also change your setup for your columns. You can add a column, for example, the owner. You can change the heading. Press OK, and it will add the owner. The columns can be reorganized and also here filtered. This works with any kind of attributes. You can also navigate to this element and you can use any kind of attributes. To create reports, you can select the Tools tab, find under Report, Run Report. Here you have a selection of all predefined reports, for example, an equipment list. You will get a preview window. And you can simply run this report. This opens a new window with your report information, and this can be exported to several formats, for example PDF. Another way to report information from the model is the simple report. Here you can specify a file name in case you want to export it to a text file. In this case we select screen. Type will be the same, equipment. Here you can add any kind of filter condition. Columns, for example, owner, name, and type. And the hierarchy, either you specify the hierarchy or you use CE for current element. Run, and it will open a extra window. In case you have the command line open, it will export it to the command line. And it's a simple export of the information. Before starting a new drawing, it is good to check the options. In Project tab, Options, there's Configurations for coordinates, Explorer settings, Forms, Units, advanced. And for view, animation and colors, selection snaps. Configuration. Important here is projection, third angle, and draw list creation. For example, share draw list in order to have one draw list for your drawing. Of course, new draw list creates for each section, projection, a new draw list. To create a new drawing from a template, you go first to the Draw Explorer. You select your department and registry where you want to create. Select New, Drawing Type, Drawing. You can select different templates depending on your setup. Press Create, give it a name or let it auto name. Create. Drawing plus sheet will be created in your canvas. Next is to create a view. You can use the quick view functionality. Select design element. In the Model Explorer, you can find your design element. In this case, we use the zone 203. Press enter. Specify your corners. Remove the auto lock. In order to create now projections of this view, you can select projection, select your view, and select the side you want to create your projection from. With the down button and finish, you can finish your drawing creation. In case the placement or the orientation is not correct, you can select your view and rotate the view direction. In order to create a detail, you can select Detail, select your view, and specify the area of your detail. Then you can change the scale by down button, select Scale, and you need to enter it as decimal, and the scale will adjust. You can repeat this. As you want. 20, and it will create a detail. In order to import external data, you can go to Tools, Import. For stat files, for example, it's MEI. Select Import. Select the area where you want to import it underneath the hierarchy, in this case, the site. CE. Import file. Select your file. Import as equipment, volume model, sub-equipment. You can create sub-equipment levels also for subparts and save existing nozzles on import in case the data has nozzle data to import. Import. Once the data is imported, you will see a new zone has been created and equipment for the imported element. And the hierarchy has all the several parts. The MEI import has the possibility to modify the imported element, to simplify, because this is one of the major issues. If you have a complex model, that the details are too high, and depending on the amount of equipment you have imported, it will slow down your model significantly. You will find here now all the subparts. For example, you can select the part and highlight it, and then you can create a box additionally, what will simplify this model a lot. You can also, for example, select other elements and also create, for example, a cylindrical element for this.